Oh, why hello there, my name is Arkthepenguin, and I'm currently in a legal war against God to remove any and all things 2020. Spoiler alert, I'm losing. While 2020 was severely flawed for pretty much everyone, there were far more positives than people, including myself, give it credit for. And for me personally, one of those positives is that I got to play a whole bunch of awesome video games that I never thought I would have played back in 2019. Now, I didn't play a lot of games that actually came out in 2020, but I did play a lot of games that came from past years. So instead of the top 10 games of 2020, I'm going to be doing my top 10 favorite games that I personally played in 2020.
Before we start the list, I'd like to go over a few honorable mentions and dishonorable mentions. We'll start off with the dishonorable mentions just to get them over with. These are some games that missed the mark for me personally. I will say that Far Cry 5 is definitely the strongest of these four, but still flawed enough for me to consider it mediocre at best. And Fallout 4 is definitely the weakest of this bunch for me personally. And I know people are gonna get pretty upset with me for that, because I know how loved and adored this game is, but I don't know, man. There was just something missing from it. Now for some honorable mentions. All of these were games that I heavily enjoyed, but were barely beaten out. I will say that Jedi Fallen Order would be on the list, but due to me not owning a physical copy, I found it difficult to include. And yes, I am aware that that is an extremely dumb reason for not including it, but I am dumb. I will say that it would be towards the middle if I was including it. Now with all that out of the way, here are the top 10 best games that I played in 2020. I've never been big into fighting games. I definitely enjoy them, but they aren't my preferred genre. I think it all comes down to most fighting games being more fun with friends, and since I don't have many friends, I don't really get to experience that very much. But Super Smash Bros. Ultimate might just be the most fun I've ever had with a fighting game in terms of both single player and multiplayer. Now, I've already made a review of this game, so I'll try to keep this short and sweet. This game easily has the most content out of any Smash Bros. Game, which therefore gives it the award for best value of any Smash game. It has at least most of the modes from all the previous Smash games, plus a brand new one in Spirits Mode. Spirits Mode was always something I'd play whenever I was bored and didn't want to play anything deep. And as you can see there were a lot of times that I was bored and didn't want to play anything deep. And the cherry on top, of course, is the gameplay, which might just be the best feeling gameplay of any fighting game I have ever played. This game is a must-play for any fighting game casuals or more hardcore fighting game fans. I'm honestly irritated at myself for putting this game so low on the list, because Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is easily one of the coolest Wii U games that ever came out. Get it? Because of coolest? Because it's tropical free? Okay, I'll stop. I would like to formally congratulate this game for becoming my third favorite 2D platformer of all time, beaten only by Super Mario World and a game that we'll get into in a bit. This game is absolutely incredible, and it is the definition of pure fun. All of the levels are perfectly designed, and when you die, it's almost always your fault. This game outdoes every 2D Mario game in terms of how the controls feel, and it might outdo any 2D platformer I've played. All of the characters are responsive, smooth, and a blast to control. And each character is useful in their own way. Diddy can hover, Dixie can hover and float up, and Cranky commits vandalism. And each level is designed in a way so you can beat it with any character, which is astonishing. Most platformer levels require a certain power-up or character to beat it, but this game doesn't. Oh, and don't even get me started on the soundtrack. All the songs are incredible, and in my opinion, some of the levels are just straight up artful. But this game does have one pretty big flaw. I feel like it ends a bit too fast. I would have liked a few more worlds, but the levels are so replayable that it's not that big a deal. It's still something to point out though. Super Mario RPG might just be my favorite SNES game ever. Yeah, I said it. I love turn-based combat, and Super Mario RPG was the first game that I know of that added timed hits into the turn-based combat to make it more engaging, which carried on to the Paper Mario series. Something that I love about Mario RPG is all of the unique races and characters. One of my biggest problems with Paper Mario Color Splash was the lack of interesting and unique characters, and for the longest time, I thought that's just how all of the Mario RPGs were, but after playing this game, I can tell that this was more of a recent change. I also love the unique areas and how they managed to feel completely new, but right at home in the Mario universe. On top of the incredibly addicting combat system, easily lands a spot on this list. In my Nintendo wishlist video, I stated that I have never played a Pikmin game. Just 2 days later, to celebrate my channel's 1-year anniversary, my parents decided to be awesome and buy me a game of my choice, and I ended up choosing Pikmin 3. Let's just get this out of the way. The Pikmin gameplay loop might just be my favorite of all time. Seeing your army grow in both quality and quantity is one of the most satisfying things in any game I've ever played. The calm nature of it also enhances the overall experience, but it's not always calm. There are a few stressful moments like whenever you underestimate an enemy and your army gets reduced to nothing but one winged Jim. But the stressful moments are a pretty good flavor change every once in a while, and it really helps to balance the experience. After playing this game, I am extremely interested in the first 2 games, which I'm hoping will be a little bit more challenging. This game isn't Super Mario 3D Land easy, but it can definitely challenge at certain points. The only truly hard boss fight is the last one, which technically isn't even a boss fight. But I still commend this game for getting me interested in a series that I would have never normally gotten into. Sunshine is better than Galaxy 2, fight me! Super Mario Sunshine might just be the most underrated Mario game of all time, and it shouldn't have to be. Most of the problems that people have with it don't bother me at all. Except maybe the voice acting. That was a bit strange. Normally I hate notoriously hard platformers, or just games in general, but for the first time, I don't ever get mad at one. I find the hard challenges to be even more enjoyable than some Mario 64 and Galaxy levels. I don't know if that has to do with me playing the original GameCube version and not the 3D All-Stars version, but man, I just don't understand why this game gets so much hate. This game is just pure fun to me, and it might be my 3rd favorite 3D Mario, beaten only by Galaxy and 64. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if this game climbed up higher on this list once I beat the main game. The cutscenes are still pretty bad though. What? You only at number 5? Well, I think that says something about the rest of the amazing games that I played this year. But forget those games for now, and let's talk about one of the best games ever made. Once again, I've already done a review of this game, so check that out if you're interested. But I'll sum it up here. Hue is the greatest 2D platformer of all time with the 2nd best soundtrack of any video game ever made. I mean, maybe I haven't played every 2D platformer ever made. I love this game, and I can't imagine any 2D platformer topping it anytime soon. And it's absolutely in my top 10 favorite games of all time. Okay, I'm sorry, but number 4 is a tie because I genuinely can't decide between these 2 Zelda games. They're both an equal amount of awesome, and have an equal amount of flaws. I'll start out with the game that came first, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Wind Waker might be the most fun I've ever had with a Zelda game other than Breath of the Wild. This game brought me just pure joy through and through, with both gameplay and story. If there's one flaw I find with this game, it's that it's a bit too easy. Now the next game, Twilight Princess. Twilight Princess is easily the coolest Zelda game yet, and probably has the best dungeons in the entire franchise. Unlike Wind Waker, this game definitely has some hard parts in terms of both combat and puzzles, and in my opinion, this story is a bit better than Wind Waker's. But I honestly had way more fun with Wind Waker. Twilight Princess is definitely fun, but it was weirdly more of an experience. Both these games are not only some of the best games I played in 2020, but of all time.
Well, we're finally in the top 3. These are the games above all else that made me feel emotions.
What? Animal Crossing is on the list? So sue me. This game was the perfect game to come out in 2020. This was my first real Animal Crossing experience other than playing New Leaf for like an hour. and it did more than live up to expectations. This game is the ultimate Zen game, a game that I always turn on whenever I'm feeling stressed, and you can bet that I loved customizing my house and island. I'll admit the soundtrack is definitely good, but not something I'd want to listen to like I would with Tropical Freezes or Hues. But a soundtrack isn't what makes a game, so back to the gameplay. One of the biggest additions to this game is the addition of crafting, which after playing this game and told everybody about crafting, everybody responded with,
"Oh, so it's like Minecraft." Ah!
I've heard way too many people compare this game to Minecraft. Way too many. Yes, this game has the same crafting, building, and terraforming mechanic as Minecraft, but that doesn't mean it's Nintendo's version of Minecraft! Anyway, this game actually took a while to click with me. When I first got it, I was completely addicted to it. For a week, but then a few months later went by where I didn't play it at all, but all of a sudden I decided that I should play it, and then... yeah. Oh my god. Where do I even begin? Metroid Prime surprised me beyond belief. I expected it to be good. But my god! Let's just start out with the obvious. This is a first-person shooter, which I've stated multiple times is not my favorite genre at all. But this game... I can't even begin to explain how incredible this game is. Let's start out with the atmosphere. This game's atmosphere is literally perfect. It makes you feel every emotion that you could possibly feel. Happiness, sadness, fear, self-consciousness. This game, at sometimes, it's like a horror game. But not like you think. Can you get jump scared? Yes. But this game's way of making the player piss themselves is, of course, the atmosphere. Next is the gameplay. It's incredible. Everything from the combat to just walking around feels exquisite. I've actually heard a lot of people say that the combat isn't that good, and I completely disagree. Most first-person shooters get crazy repetitive and boring, but scanning enemies to find their weaknesses and exploiting them is right up my alley, and it is so much fun. Another thing that I've heard mixed receptions on is the backtracking, and very similar to the combat, I loved the backtracking. In my opinion, it's part of what makes the experience so enjoyable. Each area is so dense and full of content, which makes it a joy to explore. And not only is exploring fun, but you're heavily rewarded for exploring. In the beginning of the game, you lose almost all of your abilities after exploring the opening area. As you explore new worlds, you regain your abilities, which makes you want to look deeper. Plus, this game is a first-person shooter that managed to enter my top 10 favorites of all time, possibly top 5. This game is a must-play for both first-person shooter fans and non-first-person shooter fans. Yeah, shocker, Majora's Mask is number 1, but my god, I can't help it. Number 1 is Majora's Mask, and number 1 will always be Majora's Mask. This game is a perfect example of what I believe to be creatively perfect. This game took the base that Ocarina of Time set and somehow made it the most unique and creative Nintendo game to date. Yeah, screw off, Construction Zone! The time mechanic makes this game stand out like a sore thumb in the best way possible. It opens up so many different gameplay and storytelling opportunities that I never even thought was possible. The fact that after every quest, and sometimes in the middle of one, you have to travel back through time, which causes all of the characters to forget you. That is genius! Yes, I know that was already how time travel works, but I've never seen it implemented like this. This game works time travel into the gameplay perfectly. Oh, and don't even get me started on how it affects the story and side quests. Speaking of the story and side quests, they're amazing. The story is pretty simple. The antagonist Skull Kid is going to make the crash into Termina, and you have to beat 4 dungeons to awaken 4 giants to stop them from crashing before the time limit runs out. But as I've previously stated, you can go back in time, forward in time, and slow down time, so you don't really have a time limit. So the story isn't the craziest thing in the world, but that doesn't make it any less impactful. But the side quests are where it's at. I adore this game's side quests. They're so much fun and can sometimes be kinda depressing. This game is not too bubbly. In fact, this game will make your bubble pop. I'm not going to say it's dark because I don't think that dark is the correct word to describe it. I would describe it as emotional. But enough of that, let's talk about the coolest part of Majora's Mask, the masks. A good chunk of the side quests give you one of the 24 masks in the game, each with their own special ability. None of them feel like filler, and they're all so satisfying to get. And most of the side quests you have to do to get the masks are some of my favorite in any video game ever. I honestly don't know what to say other than this game is incredible. And dare I say it, it's more than a masterpiece.
Since I played so many incredible games last year, I can't even imagine what this year is going to hold for me in terms of great games I'm going to play. And one of my New Year's resolutions was to actually play games that come out this year. So why don't I quickly predict what I believe this year is going to hold for us in terms of games. Super Mario Bros. 3 2. Goddess of War. A remake of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on Game Boy Advance entitled The Legend of Zelda Breath of Advance. Mario and Sonic at the Cyrodiil Olympic Games 2024. A new Nintendo handheld called the Nintendo 4DS. Tom Howard Simulator. Metroid Prime 4.